Produce Reporter Week in Review, and this is my boring office.
Yeah.
I kind of are we on the like come down like after a holiday, you know, the produce holiday is over, back to my mundane life.
The hangover and then recovery and then looking for the next thing. I guess New Year's comes for us at FPA and Tucson in a couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I need another hit of excitement
And
and new
then New
stuff.
York, it's we're not done for the year.
Yeah, yeah, I know, but the big show is over. But, as I mentioned to a couple of folks, where we talk about where the prep for the show is all consuming, but that's like not even when the real actual work starts. The real actual work starts is following up on all that stuff that you saw. Because if you just like took a card or a sales sheet for something and then just filed it away and never talked to anyone about it, then you didn't actually experience the show like you're meant to, did you?
That's
So,
correct. Everyone has a stack of to-dos when they return. First, they have to go through and catch up on all the stuff, their normal job that they missed out on. Then they have to start doing follow up from IFPA, and that can take weeks, if not a couple months. I mean, you definitely want to do that before Christmas holiday time.
for sure, for sure. And while we were standing on the show floor talking about all the things we saw, I kept repeating the same thing over and over to people when they would ask me, because again, like I was overwhelmed with all the stuff. So you got to go back and look at the pictures and see what everyone else explained. That was the other thing that, I'm dialed in on social media, and it's become unbearable to miss shows anymore because everyone posts about them before. And that's the thing that didn't used to happen back in the day. Back in the day, if you were connected to business acquaintances on Facebook or something like that, sometimes you tag them in photos or something like that. I've got a couple of work stuff that's on personal Facebook. My personal Facebook exists for my grandma to see pictures of my kids nowadays. But LinkedIn has really just stepped into the forefront. And if you don't go to a show, seeing all the photos from the show is like a knife in the heart. Like you missed out. So I've seen a lot of people's favorite booths, people's favorite experiences. And one of the most successful ones is that all the marketers who see people and get like a selfie with them, and then tag them after the show. That's one like fantastic way to network where it's like, I'm so glad I met you. I'm so glad I saw you. It's great to catch up. Let me tag you in a picture after the show to show that we were hanging out together, even if it was like 30 seconds standing on the show floor. I love that stuff. Like that's great. If you see me in my leggings and you want a picture, by all means. So
Well,
that's
a lot
what
of times it's catching up from the social events on the night before coming up, and that's not as good a place to take a photo with someone with a drink
right.
in hand and then post it on LinkedIn.
It depends on how
So,
cool your boss is.
yeah, right.
Right. But out there on the show floor, I mean, I do my fun like mascot selfies and things like that. And but to actually get out there and just connect and reconnect and show who's enjoying your booth. I think Equifruit does a fun job of that with their the Bananity Fair magazine cover thing. There's certain experiences that just really can't be discounted. And so to see how it plays out in the media, the social media after we're done is really fun and exciting. And if you don't go, I think it like social media is the best hype man for any of these shows. Because you know who's who and who went and who's talking about it. And so if you don't have a well-established um, hashtag or whatever to try to make sure that everyone's posting it on the same spot, you're missing out. So
All right.
that
So,
was
upon reflection, what are some things that you noticed that you didn't have time or couldn't grasp in the moment that we were recording our last video on the last day of the expo?
all right. I pulled a dozen, or basically a baker's dozen, of things that I think were really interesting that I saw on the show floor. First of all, Bonduelle is dropping Ready Pack as a brand name for their bistro bowls, and we buy those all the time, so it's kind of like personal for me. So we're going to see Bonduelle branding in the US. It's something that you see in Europe, especially in the canned vegetable aisle. And then they're also reformulating some of these bistro bowls to include more of the toppings. So less lettuce filler, I guess would be, and then more of the protein. Well, more on that later. So I thought that was interesting. The other one was, I like walked past the Bolthouse Farms juice booth, which is different than the Bolthouse. It was really cool to see the distinct identities of Bolthouse carrot versus Bolthouse juice. Two huge booths. And then the carrot people walking around. They were all about carrots. You got, I think Kirk, our CEO, got one of those carrot hats, the trucker hats. But I saw out of the corner of my eye a mango nata juice, which is mangoes plus tahini, and I was like, and I just snapped a photo and like kept on my day. And then when I was looking at the pictures, I noticed the one next to it was Sumo citrus juice. So branded juice from the, UHP juice companies. I thought that was really, really interesting and something I hadn't really seen that much before.
Does that mean
Kapu
you didn't taste test them?
I didn't taste test them. I'm gonna have to. I bet you HEB's already got it. I haven't. And that was the thing. It was like I was juiced out by then. I had so much Natalie's, the blood orange and the tangerine juice and stuff that I didn't have any room and the dragon, not the dragon, the Dracula blood orange juice. That's always a hit on the show floor, especially when they make it into mimosas or something like that. Um, so then Caputo and Guest had this mushroom pack, and it's exotic mushrooms and they're fancy, right? And they had fancy names. And the packaging looked fancy, the branding looked fancy, everything about them looked fancy. It wasn't just a pizza blend, it was a wood-fired pizza blend. Because you cannot just put this on your Tino's frozen pizza, or could you? It
Don't recommend.
might be good. And then I wanted to try the Mastronardi berries, the new Utopia ones. Did you get a chance to? I did not get a chance to.
I didn't see that they were even offering them. I walked by there, but
I gotta get a Noah guy to get my hands on one of these berries because they were packed just like the Oishi, like in the little pillow pouch things. So super fancy. But one of the most successful booths that I saw, and I have a personal story about how this was successful, was Penrose Farms. Had merch. And it wasn't just like cheap t-shirts. It was nice t-shirts and hoodies. And it was so cold in there on the education day that they
yeah.
probably could like we don't even need to sell fruits and vegetables here. We could sell these hoodies and make some money on that. But the new branding and they had somebody come up with these concepts of like the vintage produce labels. A lot of people really like those, including me. I have like a calendar of them and a book of like vintage citrus labels. But they had these t-shirts that had them on there. And let me tell you, my 16-year-old has worn his twice already. So you get the stamp of approval from the kids. So then you know you're winning.
Clearly.
So yeah. So I've got all 12 plus one. I had to give Spice World a +1 on this one because first of all the new things weren't all together. So there's two different pictures. But they had like cut up garlic that was not jarlic. And of course Spice World is very proud of its jarlic. They are, well known in the jarred garlic trade, but they have a pouch bag of the cut up garlic and it's the more fresh version of that because I'm not a huge fan of I can taste it in at least my cooking, or maybe it's subliminal or something like that. I know when it's garlic versus fresh garlic. And then they have peeled ginger. Never saw that before. And then they have like a little shrink wrap thingy that goes around a garlic bulb. And I'm like, huh. But then I thought about it and I'm like, you know what? They used to put it in the box. So this is definitely a different step than having it in a box. It has a UPC code on it, so you can ring it up at the register. And then the other thing is that one can be organic and one can be conventional. And I talked to someone at the booth and they said that some retailers aren't going to carry an organic option for garlic because there's literally, unless it's like hugely packaged, it's very difficult to differentiate and make sure you get the ring through, especially on single bulbs. So justification for packaging. So we're trying to make sure that we're minimal on it and we're intentional. So that was my takeaways.
All right. Well, that leads us into some more trends because the biggest conventional retailer dropped a top 5 trends list, and it looks a little different than some others. Like the
Yeah,
cutting edge. This is Kroger, and this
right.
is this is the definition of mainstream grocery.
Right. And that's the thing is we were chatting about this when we found the release about it is that Kroger um we feel like that if your trend is on here, Whole Foods is bleeding edge on this kind of stuff. Kroger is the giant force pushing some of these things. So if you got something that fits into this list, I mean, we're celebrating, right? So first thing was Food Dupes, which is actually, I think, just promoting its private label. Not surprising. Um, Pickled sauerkraut, briny, kimchi. Kimchi. Oh, who picked kimchi a couple of years ago? Well, that would be me. um, Peppers, like they Kroger has done a really big job of promoting hatch peppers the last couple of years, sending out a specific news release, gorgeous art all about hatch peppers. So they're expanding that to Calabrian chilies, guajillos. I could even see them bringing in. They've got like in the list of products that they're offering. There's a seasoning blend and petite potatoes, so like a hatch chili potato. And I could probably see like a chili crunch, but with like a pepper forward kind of chili crunch thing.
Peppers are a
Caesar,
lot more versatile than people give them credit for. They go into a lot more things. It's not just limited to what you know that they're in. So I really like that trend. That's a
yeah,
great way to add spice and variety to traditional dishes.
yeah, and snacking and all kinds of like bell peppers are one of the most snacked items in this household. Cucumbers and bell peppers, those are our most snackable. And I've even gone back to like regular bell peppers. I don't even bother with the little ones a lot of the time because once I learned TikTok taught me how to properly cut a bell pepper. And it's super fast now, and there's all these hacks and stuff about getting the core out, and all you do is just like chop, 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 chop around the sides, and then you're done. I don't even make it into small pieces when it's snackable in this house. Like, why didn't I know this before?
That's
I
what
don't
teeth
know.
are for.
You're right. Just eat it like an apple. Actually, I do that sometimes. But the one and the other one here before we get to the big one, the Caesar salad. That was one that's not been on my radar, but when I start to think about it, I think about the bag salad kits that we frequently consume in this household, and Caesar is the most popular one. But there's so many different ones now. There's like the bacon Caesar, there's like Caesar, the chopped Caesar that's like cabbagey stuff. So we're starting to see pizza related to Caesar, and then all the different things that you can add to its Caesar salad, the dressing, the anchovies, the Parmesan cheese crisps, the chopped Tuscan kale. So different ways to dress things using Caesar. Different.
Yeah,
But the one we have to worry about, Greg, it's back.
yeah.
Um, and we're gonna keep
Protein.
banging this drum. Protein.
Protein is big. So we're a little torn on whether we should see this as an opportunity or a threat, aren't we?
I'm torn on whether it's an opportunity or a threat because I see people focusing so much on protein that produce is losing share of plate. You see it as replacing carbs with protein. And
Like to see it that way. I like
yeah,
to hear friends trying to improve their diet and cut calories, saying they're taking carbs out of their diet. But every once in a while, not every once in a while, more often than I'd like, people talk about cutting fruit out. And I do not
yeah,
like, I mean, I the people I know are not doubling their vegetable intake at the expense of fruit. They're adding a little and cutting fruit out, and that's not good. I do not
right.
like. So I'm not a fan of that. And even when Kroger highlights plant-based proteins, it's not produce. It's beans, lentils, seeds. Um, I think the produce industry needs to take this, I wouldn't necessarily say more seriously, but as a bigger opportunity and find ways to tell how produce fits into a protein trend.
What I'm personally just doing to maybe give some inspiration is you come back from a show and you're all motivated to eat more fruits and vegetables, but I have zero time this week. I have all of the things. It's like being dumped back into the deep end with life, right? So I bought like 5 salad kits and a bag of frozen blackened chicken tenders. And so I've been eating salad kit plus chicken tender, and it's super boring. It would be super boring if it was all the same salad kit. But one day it was buffalo chicken, and the next day it was steakhouse ranch, and the next day it was what was like Mexican street corn. So the thing is that you can get all of your vegetables and add the protein to the vegetables. Like, and I'm not sacrificing fruit because my snacks are apples and grapes. Grapes are peak season right now. They're so good. Like, they've been really good lately.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, we got to talk about how we can add protein without losing the veg. And sorry carbs. Like, sorry bread. Like, you're gonna have to take a back seat right now.
Yeah, and
Um,
pasta, but not potatoes. Don't cut those.
no, and I actually saw a TikTok about this where the lady was talking about ways to eat more things, and potatoes was her like secret magic weapon. And she's like, and if you're worried about the glycemic whatever for potatoes, heat them up, cook them the night before, and then reheat them, and it does the same thing as rice does. And that's all nutritional information that I don't entirely understand, but apparently it's better for you if you reheat potatoes. Which I do frequently. I'll bake like 10 potatoes and then keep baked potatoes in the fridge and cut them up and use them as other stuff later in the week. So I'm already on that trend. I already own that.
Outside of my nutritional knowledge, I'll have to consult some of the dietitians that I met through the who a bunch of them were there at IFPA like usual.
Right? Yep. We thought it would be a slow news week. The IFPA hangover is just kind of like all the different booth coverages and all the different, I saw this and I saw this person here, but then McDonald's decided to throw an outbreak at us, an E. coli outbreak, a deadly E. coli outbreak. One person, unfortunately, so far has died from E. coli that has been traced to quarter pounders so far. That is one thing in common that a lot of the people that have been identified that are related to this outbreak. And McDonald's has said they're not sure. They're doing the trace back. This is still brand new. The latest case was actually, I think, October 11th. But the two things on a quarter pounder that are isolated from everything else on the menu are burgers and sliced onions, or like a slivered onion. So neither of those sound great, and of course we never want to hear about outbreaks. But then today, or at least on Thursday, we've got more reporting and some of the media outlets, and I hope this is what's going on. Taylor Farms has recalled the onions that they produce in their Colorado facility that go to McDonald's.
So it's linked at this point. We have tried to reach out to Taylor, but we have not heard back yet. So they are linked to it, and they do have a recall. And once we start seeing it on multiple legacy news organizations, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, AP, then we have to start. That's why we decided that's something we absolutely have to bring to our readers to make sure they know what's going on from the fresh produce industry angle.
And you know what? This is what could be happening until we hear back from Taylor Farms. We're not 100% sure, but this could be Taylor Farms going, okay, they have narrowed it down to these two items possibilities. So I don't know, like they use this quote all the time, an abundance of caution. Let's go ahead and pull these onions, and then while the investigation is ongoing, because it's only this one facility, because if you look at the map, it's Colorado has the most cases, and then it's kind of like spread out from there. It goes as far east as Wisconsin, and I think as far west as Idaho, but I'm not 100% sure. Montana for sure. So maybe it really is just super abundance of caution. I can remember way back in the day, I think I was pregnant at the time. There was a recall that was, everyone was sure it was tomatoes. And I remember going out and like taking pictures of salsa at restaurants, and they were removing salsa, and oh, it's tomatoes. It's definitely tomatoes. And then it ended up being serrano peppers. So it is could be one of those things where it could still be the burgers. It could be something else. But we're for right now, onions are associated with this in the investigation.
Yeah, and we have links to some of the news coverage, so if someone wanted to dig a little deeper, they can find that in our story.
Yep. But for now, we'll keep an eye on that. And for now, that's it for the Produce Reporter Week in Review. If you are not getting the Produce Reporter newsletter, you need to go to producebluebook.com and sign up.